Elizabeth, what are you doing here?
I've been formally asked to witness your triumph, my dear. After all, isn't it the natural role of a woman to support her man in victory?
But it's you who insisted I join the Ascalon.
Please forgive my giddiness. I'm just overcome by the thrill of finally being allowed within these hallowed halls.
You certainly have an inquisitive mind. It's quite something. Elizabeth Ashbury, only you can make me smile in these difficult times.
And the same to you, Jonathan Reed. Now go have your little chat with the chairman. I can see he's practically bursting to hear your report. We'll talk later, Jonathan.
I personally went patrolling last night in the West End, and I spotted at least 2 foreign econs. This is an outrage. We shall chase these intruders down.
Welcome back to the Ascalon Club, Lance-Bearer. Please tell us the good news. Have you put an end to the epidemic?
My hypothesis was correct. Doris Fletcher was the source of the contagion in this part of town. She was probably the first to be infected.
And you cleansed her before the hunters, I've been told. Well done, Dr. Reed. You thrust your lance and pierced the very heart of the corruption.
I'm just a doctor.
The important thing is, we won a major battle for the survival of London. For that, we salute you.
Thank you, my lord.
Now, I have another task for you. One of the utmost importance. Perhaps even more so than the previous.
I'm listening.
It's time for you to perform a most sacred duty for the club. I want you to recruit a new vampire.
Recruit a new vampire? Are you sending me on some sort of diplomatic mission?
Not exactly. I want you to make Aloysius Dawson the Econ he deserves to be.
I'm not sure I'm the best candidate for such a task.
I can hear the hesitation in your voice, Dr. Reed. I admire a man of principles. But in this matter, there is more at stake than your moral comfort.
It's not a moral question, Lord Redgrave. It's the responsibility of giving immortality to a man I barely know.
Nonsense. Aloysius has been a member of the Ascalon for years. This is but the fruition of a long-held plan.
How would you like me to proceed?
Aloysius is waiting for you at the Dawson estate. Once the deed is done, I'll join you there to celebrate this momentous occasion.
Before I go, I have a few questions.
All right, I'm listening.
How would you like me to proceed?
Don't worry. Aloysius has had many years to prepare himself. He has studied our kind for decades.
So shall I just let him drink my blood?
Yes. Aloysius will gratefully sup on your blood. His heart will slow, then stop. But he will rise again as one of us, an immortal.
Is there any danger?
Our blood alters a mortal body so deeply that some don't survive the metamorphosis. They die for good. But Mr. Dawson has been preparing himself for a long time.
Why Aloysius Dawson?
Because he is about to die. And he just may be the most influential man in England. After me, of course.
Did he choose me?
No, I did. My decision is very recent, to say the least, but it is entirely mine.
Does he know I'm coming?
He can't wait to become your progeny, Dr. Reed. Especially now that you have shown how strong your lineage is through your sister.
You invited Lady Ashbury. Wouldn't that be breaking one of your cardinal rules? No women allowed.
Not allowed as members, no. But considering the circumstances, I thought you'd like to have her here to witness your triumph.
So it's a temporary admittance, then?
Something of a bargain, considering the crisis we're currently facing.
Goodbye, Lord Redgrave.
Understand? Don't...
Is...
Oh.
Why... Does...
He can't...
Did...
No.
Goodbye, Lord...
Are you all right, Jonathan?
Lord Redgrave has just ordered me to turn Aloysius Dawson. To make him my progeny.
I see. And how do you feel about this?
I'd like your advice on the matter.
The real question here is, why has his lordship given you this task?
Do you think it's some sort of trap?
Do you really want to know what I think about this?
I do, yes.
To make an immortal of a soulless blackguard like Aloysius Dawson will only lead to a disaster for London. The man is already dead inside.
Should I refuse? Perhaps politely suggest that Lord Redgrave turn the man into a vampire himself.
Don't you dare, my dear. According to what I've recently discovered, his lordship could kill you for even broaching the subject.
Really? Why?
I've recently found proof that the Earl of Bristol is of lesser lineage and only capable of creating skulls.
Please tell me more about your recent investigation.
As long as you lower your voice.
Are you sure your information about Redgrave is correct? He says he's the progeny of the great knight William Marshall, who lived some 9 centuries ago.
That's a lie. Lord Redgrave is unable to create anything but skulls, if the poor soul survive at all.
How can you be sure the information was correct?
I made the acquaintance of a most interesting informer while investigating your maker, from whom I learned the truth about Lord Redgrave.
Why so vindictive? You suddenly sound like you're angry.
Forgive me, Jonathan. I hate myself for it, but I feel such pride in my discovery. I'm afraid I just can't help it.
Which is?
He did serve William Marshall. And yes, the blood he covets as a token does truly belong to that legendary knight. But he was never his progeny. His lineage is not so noble.
What would you have me do about Dawson?
The man is dangerous. Did you know he plans to build a wall to separate the healthy rich from the sickly poor? Do not make him your progeny.
What would you do?
The man's dying already. Let the Reaper harvest the rotten fruit that is his soul.
What would happen if I made Dawson an Ekon like myself?
You would add a powerful immortal into a suffering world. An immortal who already craves authority.
Maybe I could teach him control, like you taught me. Lead him down the right path.
Mr. Dawson spent his life searching for a way to cheat death. I'm sure he has spent decades dreaming of how he'd spend eternity as a tyrant.
Goodbye for now, Elizabeth.
Goodbye, my dear. Please, be careful.
It looks like vampires have to obey Mendel's laws when producing progeny. Powers pass from one generation to another. That's why Dawson wants me to sire him.
Nothing to connect me to this city anymore.
Good evening, Mr. Kim.
Good evening, Dr. Reed.
Do you know anything about a man called Aloysius Dawson, by any chance?
Well, I've never met the man personally, but I invested money in some of his companies when I came to London. A brilliant businessman.
How is the situation in the West End?
I've heard rumors about armed men patrolling and fighting infected citizens in these very streets. I was lucky they didn't shoot me when I was abducted.
May I ask you what you do for a living, Mr. Kimura?
I was a landlord. A wealthy one. And not a very kind one, I realized recently.
Why this sudden epiphany? Is it because of your near-death experience?
I was already feeling nostalgic about Weymouth, my hometown. With recent events, I'm thinking about going back there.
Why are you so nostalgic for your hometown, Tadao?
I was focused so much on making money, I almost forgot that my relatives and friends are threatened by this epidemic.
Have you heard anything from your family?
I was not only a bad landlord, I was also a bad husband. I've not seen my wife and son for years. Busy, busy, busy.
At least now you're ready to go back and see them. But don't be surprised if your son bears a grudge, sir.
You make it sound like you suffered from an absent father yourself, Dr. Reed. Well, I'll keep your warning in mind.
Have you no friends at all?
Over the years, I'm afraid my greed turned me into my friend's adversary, while I became friends with my professional rivals.
Those you grew up with didn't share your views on money and success.
Would you believe I was once a member of poetry circles and an astronomy club? We were young, such joyful dreamers then. But I stopped laughing long ago.
Can you change? And is it what you really want? If so, it must come from within, not without.
I've seen what an altruistic gesture can do. Nothing forced you to save me, Dr. Reed, but you did. I will follow your example in these matters from now on.
There is no need to thank me. Rescuing a London citizen should not be out of the ordinary. But I'm afraid it may appear so in these difficult times.
You did not only rescue me, you fought for me. You put your life in danger to save me. That's quite extraordinary.
How will you cope if you're attacked again?
I don't know. I've heard about these men and women who patrol the West End every night, chasing criminals like my abductor. Maybe I should join them.
What can you tell me about your abduction?
If you really want to know, I was locked in that building for 3 or 4 days. My jailer was insane, mumbling about sacrifice and voices.
And why didn't he sacrifice you?
That was the weirdest part. He claimed to spill blood was not enough. It had to be done when some stars were aligned.
Which stars?
That's the whole point. He wanted me to talk to him about some Red Queen configuration or constellation. I've never heard of such an astronomical term.
What did he say about voices?
He constantly whined about the voice of his master, ordering him to do terrible things. He wanted to silence the voice by offering blood. My blood.
Tell me, Tadao, why was your abductor so interested in your passion for astronomy?
I dunno. We met a few times at the Royal Greenwich Observatory. He seemed to share my hobby. Then he invited me to his house and locked me in.
Yes, astronomy is a fascinating subject. When I was a child, my mother bought a small telescope for my sister and I. We spent many a pleasant evening stargazing.
Stars are not just dots in the sky, Doctor. They are the key to our understanding of the cosmos. They remind us how insignificant we are.
You're right. But children love magic and stories. I remember our mother told us constellations have the power to protect us.
Protection by the light of the stars. That's sweet. You remember the name of these constellations?
Draco. My favorite constellation.
Memory's a strange thing. I can recite without hesitation the names of the 88 constellations. Yet I barely remember my own childhood.
Did he fake his interest in astronomy to get close to you?
No. In his madness, he spoke about a blood sacrifice to be made to his master when the stars aligned to a specific configuration.
Goodbye, Mr. Kimura. Good evening, Miss Ashbury.
And good evening to you, Dr. Reed.
What do you know about Aloysius Dawson?
That man is a tyrant. The embodiment of greed and selfishness. All I despise about this country.
Goodbye, Charlotte. Give my best regards to your mother when you see her.
She's been quite busy these last few nights. I suspect...
Good evening, Dr. Reed.
Do you know anything about a man called Aloysius Dawson?
He used to be a big spender. One day, he sent 3 houseboys to buy all the beluga in my shop. For his brother's birthday, if I remember correctly.
I see. Anything else? Less gastronomic, perhaps?
I really can't say. The man is filthy rich. But you know that, of course.
Goodbye, Mr. Rutt.
Women die too in this war!
Good evening, old chap.
I won't lie to you, Johnny. I'm not...
What can you tell me about Aloysius Dawson?
Well, I've discovered he's quite versed in occult knowledge. So I wrote him a letter asking him to finance my research about vampires. He never responded.
You need some...
Support the equality between men and women!
Hello, Venus.
Hello, Jonathan. At least you survived the Great War. I think... What do you need from me?
Did Clarence recently show you documents that prove the existence of vampires?
Yes, he did. And he also told me you spent a few nights gathering research for him. Seriously, Jonathan. Why feed his obsession like that?
He's my friend. I thought it might help him rest, instead of going outside at night. Tell me, what are your thoughts about vampires?
Gibberish and poppycock. Dracula was a good book, but these documents were just mumbo-jumbo. I burnt them all as soon as Clarence went outside again.
What can you tell me about Aloysius Dawson?
I never met the man. I know Clarence tried to contact him recently, but I don't know why. I remember when Mary came here with her husband.
Rats. Teeth.
I need to find information about Aloysius Dawson. What can you tell me about him?
Don't trust him. He's looking for the same thing I was. Rats? No, not rats. Something else. I don't remember.
I must go now. Good.
They're all around you.
Good evening, Dr. Tibbets.
Dr. Reed.
Goodbye, Doctor.
What news, Jonathan? I've heard you've now joined the vampire elite of London.
Did Elizabeth tell you?
So it's Elizabeth now. My. Things are moving quickly. I turn my back for a moment, and away you go.
I may have found the source of the contagion. Doris Fletcher, the actress. Thankfully, in the end, she was destroyed by fire.
Really? Oh, please, do tell me more.
Doris was a heavily mutated skull. Almost a new breed entirely. It's as if the disease had completely altered her mind and body. Highly contagious.
As if the disease had taken control of her will?
Yes. Once a beautiful and brilliant woman, she became motivated by hate alone.
Oh, she was a beauty. I met her when she visited the hospital to cheer up the sick. Too bad the fire destroyed her. But it was probably for the best.
Have you heard of similar cases?
No, I don't think so. Except, perhaps, it reminds me of an old report from the Brotherhood. Well, more an article, really.
What was it about?
The author, a friar, referred to a rare form of contagion in a skull he observed during the Black Death. The carrier was always female. They called them Icors.
Have you seen Lady Ashbury recently?
Yes, she popped in yesterday. Told me about your new friends in the West End.
Just a courtesy visit, then?
Yes. And no. She was en route to the docks, I think, following a lead concerning your maker.
How's the situation at the Pembroke?
We're still holding out. Question is, for how long? What we really need is hope, Jonathan. Hope for a better tomorrow.
I'll come back later. Thank you, Edgar.
Always a pleasure to see you, my friend.
Good evening, Milton.
Good evening, Doc.
I'd like to...
Wise choice, Doctor.
Good evening, Milton.
Good. Is so lucky.
I'd like...
Wise choice, Doctor.
I met him in New York once.
If only there were more of us, with less resignation and more determination.
I know I can count.
Good evening, Chris.
Change your...
Goodbye.
See them fancy clothes? This one's a top! No! fuck is fast?